Hello.
Hi, everybody. As you can see, we already have a full stage for this sixth free webinar that we organize in FinTech Belgium. Caroline, this is always the first moment that we start. You're the woman behind the technology here to make it all go flawless. Any special things you want to already say now?
Yes, just to tell you, we really want to have your feedback, your opinions. So feel free to share on the chat windows to the right side. The questions tab where you will ask everything. Our speaker are there to help you to answer to these special questions. Then you will see during the webinar we will launch some polls, and the last one is people is the person who are looking at this webinar at the same time than you. Enjoy.
So we really want to make it interactive. And in order to do that, I'm just going to quickly show you through the first batch of slides that we prepared for this. The first speaker will be Cédric as soon as I manage to get the slides on here. And as always, doing these live webinars puts us into some, I would say, technical trouble. So I was going to switch straight to the presentation mode. That doesn't seem to work. So I'll go a little workaround. Taking you all the ways to get to PowerPoint again. So here we go. I trust you all that you're able to see my screen. This is our AccountingTech version today. We're really going to have an interesting time because, as you know, there's these two worlds that have been going on for a long time, which are the document-based accounting world, where people were sending in the old days boxes to their accountants that would classify it. And then we had the banks that were transaction-based, who were giving the payment information and who are moving up to the accounting world, and the accounting world under PSD2 is moving up more into the transactional world. And there's lots of interesting things happening in that space. And I think the coronavirus is accelerating the need both for the customers to deal digitally with their accountants. And so Cédric Nève from Digiteal, a very appropriate name in these times, will explain why it's so important to get those invoices in a digital way and collect the payments. Then we have Amélie Laurensou, who will explain us how you can keep getting your accounts payable operations running from home. We have Hans Jacobs from UnifiedPost, who's going to tell us about the cooperative platform for accountants and their customers. And Edouard Beauvois from AiVidens will tell us about how to analyze the risk and payment behavior. And then we'll do a very interactive, or at least we hope it's going to be interactive Q&A, and we'll wrap up with a conclusion at the very end of that. As always, the speakers, we drop a little LinkedIn reference at the start of their talks, so you can connect with them if you found what they said very interesting, or if you want to go direct with them after this session. And so without further delay, I will start. I just stop sharing my screen, and I hope that by now Cédric can take the stage to follow up on this and explain what Digiteal is doing exactly in this space to move forward. So Cédric, I would say the floor is yours. If you can maybe quickly introduce what Digiteal does and how you move this forward.
Yep, thank you, Toon. So you know that for the moment we're all experiencing strange times, and these times are stressing our cash flow. We're all in need of more cash, and at Digiteal we try to help you get paid faster, so reduce your collection time and the effort that you take into getting those invoices paid. I have a question for you. I would like to know what's the percentage of the invoices that get paid, that you send out and that get paid before the due date. I suppose not enough. That's the usual answer. But how about the invoices that are paid in the first 24 hours after you have sent them? I suppose almost none, and that's a pity, because in these times you have a lot of ways to collect on your invoices. You can do factoring, you can do a lot of things, but all of those solutions have a high cost. The way to really get, well, cash fast and to have it without any extra cost is really from your customers themselves, for them to pay you as soon as possible. So what we try to do here is really get this payment done faster and try to get them even to pay in the first hour after you have sent the invoice. The process that I suppose you're using to send out those invoices is called the order to cash process. We have highlighted a few things in this process where we see pain points that lead to more problematic payments from your customers. The first thing is when you're going to send out the invoice, well, there's a cost associated with this presentment of the invoice. So we'll try to explain to you today how to reduce this presentment cost. The second part is that when you're going to get paid, if it happens, I hope it will, then you might have problems doing the reconciliation. So the matching between the invoice that you send and the payment that you received. So that's another thing.
Just to interrupt you, Cédric, I just launched a poll so the people can tell who is indeed among the lucky ones that get already paid within 24 hours, or if they're in the range of the people where it always takes too long, right? So I'll keep you posted in a few minutes when the 40 plus participants are now reacting live. They can only choose one. So it's the average on which your invoices get paid. Yeah, it doesn't have to be exact, but so give us a zone there. Perfect. Go ahead. I interrupted you.
And so another problem is, we already talked about it, late payments. So you want to get paid faster. And the last part is you often don't know where your invoice is stuck. Did your customer receive it? When are they going to pay? This is also often an issue. You have poor visibility on what's going on the customer side. If we first look at the initial step here, the invoicing cost, there was a report done by the ASA that said that in average for a company sending out a paper invoice, it costs them more than €4. So in order to reduce this cost, it's really important to go to e-invoicing. So really machine-to-machine invoicing from your accounting system to the accounting system of your customers without any human intervention. I'm sure that Hans will have a lot to say about this too. And so that's important when you're sending the invoice. But when you're on the other side and you're on the reception side, so you're the customer and you're receiving an invoice, if you receive plenty of those invoices by paper or by mail, it also has a high cost for you to process those incoming invoices. And there you see that the difference between paper and email is not high at all. It costs you about the same to receive a paper invoice and to receive an email invoice. So there, more than anything, it's important to go to e-invoicing so that it directly arrives into your accounting software. You can do that for B2B invoices, but you should also think about all the B2C invoices, the invoice you're sending to your consumers, and also the B2G, where sometimes you don't even have the choice. They will only accept electronic invoices in some cases. Hello to the Flemish government here. What you also need to think about is onboarding your customers into this journey, because when you're going to go digital or to go to e-invoicing, it's important that both the supplier and the customer are able to receive and send electronically. That's how you'll have the most benefits. So my advice for you, automate and digitalize your processes, and don't forget about your customers. They are part of the equation to make it work. When you are sending out your invoices, you're usually doing it through a billing software. So that's where the AccountingTech happens. This billing software will probably have different channels to send out the invoice. Paper, email, presentment in a portal, presentment in a mobile application, whatever. It's important that if you want to get paid, that you give the right options to your customers to enable a fast payment. When the customer doesn't have an option to pay fast, he will just delay. He will wait for when he has the time or when you will remind him enough to do those payments. If he has just a button to click, he has a lot less excuses not to pay you directly. So provide the payment options wherever the channel you are using. If we look at paper, we advise you to use the standard EPC QR code. The EPC is for European Payment Council. They set out a standard for that includes all the information required in order to do a SEPA credit transfer, so a usual bank transfer. It's easy and it's free. So they're really it's a no-brainer. You should have it on all your documents in order to make them pay directly from their bank application or from other applications that also support this standard. So that's on paper. On the other channels, when you're already electronic, there a pay button is the best option. The customer will just see it in their email in whatever. Here it's in a mobile application. They click on it, they see the details of the payment. They can then confirm with a PIN code, a fingerprint, or face recognition, whatever. And like that, the payment will be done. No mistakes, payment always complete, the communication, so it will be perfectly understood and recognized by your accounting as soon as you get the payment. So give the options to your customers. And it's the option, one option is to pay through a credit transfer, so a bank transfer. It's also interesting to provide options to pay with alternative payment methods, Bancontact here in Belgium, maybe credit cards, whatever makes sense to your customers and they're accustomed to. If you give them all the options, you'll have more chance of them paying quicker. So here you see an example of how they can just choose to pay with Bancontact, and it will open their app, bank app, Bancontact app, whatever, in order to confirm the payment. Another element that is important is try to reduce this cost to sending the invoice. And to go to electronic, you need to get the consent of your customer. So you need to, for your customer to agree to switch to an electronic channel. And so what we are doing in Digiteal is that after a payment, we're going to ask the customer if he received it on paper, if he doesn't want to switch to an electronic presentment. This might be more practical for him, and it will cost you less for the next invoices that you're going to send him. It's very important also to do it as part of the payment process, because if you just have some banner or some little text on the invoice that you're sending, inviting them to do so, the customers won't read this and they will not act upon it. So what you expect from your customer is at least to pay. If you add this change of channel in the payment process, you'll have a lot more chance of them actually changing channel. So it's also important in order to reduce your cost. To take an example of what big corps are doing in terms of electronic invoicing, I'll here show you a little slide taken from Proximus. Proximus has an approach now that is called PayPal first. So it's a bit complicated maybe, but PayPal is a European standard allowing you to send invoices for the moment, mostly B2G, but going on to more B2B, and to share it in a way that you don't really need to have a specific connection to each of the providers or each of the networks. It's done through a standard that is called PayPal. So Proximus is sending the invoice through what they call an access point to send it through PayPal, and all the other recipients there, all the other solutions can forward this invoice into your accounting package. So that's great because it's costing you a lot less than if you had to go through a specific channel like Ariba or TradeShift, where the cost of the invoice will sometimes be more than €5. With PayPal, we're at costs that are a lot lower, and that's why Proximus really wants to push on that one and implement it more.
Maybe a question for you. Yeah, on one of your previous slides, you put there's a software war going on, or I could translate it that way at least. To which extent do you feel this? You have all these platforms. You have the ones doing the outbound invoicing. How consensual is this business going? Because everybody is fighting to be the hub, the platform, the distributor. Do you see what I'm hinting at? Yeah. Yeah. So one of the things we all hate is we get an email saying you now have to log into your vendor's portal, and they don't attach a PDF, they don't attach a PayPal, nothing you can do. You have to go and log in, and this extra action makes it very hard. How is this something you hear from other people? Yes, of course. And in fact, PayPal is the answer to that. Okay. Today, if you want, there is no one size fits all for receiving your invoice and processing your incoming invoices. So depending on what is your specific setup, what tool you're using, you'll want to have them sent somewhere else. And in order for you to receive them, it's important that this tool that you're using is able to receive it from whatever emission channel your provider is using. Okay. And that's exactly what PayPal is doing. They're bringing together the two worlds. Your provider can choose whatever channel he wants to send it. It will send. Okay. You, as a reception, you can choose whatever channel you want to receive it, and you will receive it.
and the middleman in the middle is the standard. So it doesn't have to go to a specific third party in order to make this work, like the Ariba or Tradeshift networks that take this role of making it all roll together. Here, the standard is there for that.
Okay, thank you for explaining that. So
and so
I
promise,
wasn't the only one struggling with it.
I suppose the answer here enables you to really choose how you want to receive your invoice and what makes the most sense for you. However, sometimes some providers are not connected through Peppol, and that's why Proximus still has a fallback channel to go to these specific networks. They know that it will cost them a lot more, but they still want their recipients to receive the invoice, and that's why they agreed to pay this price. So that's the strategy for Proximus and NG.
But from what I understand, they used to pay for a stamp and the paper, and now they pay a network to distribute it for them. Right? So it's still a huge cost reduction for those big players sending out millions of invoices in the paper compared to the paper world.
Very good question. Compared to paper, yes, it is a reduction. Depending on who will be your access point, so which postal service you will be using, you'll have a different price. I don't know if we have guys from Basware in the audience, but sorry guys, guys are too expensive. But there are cheaper options, and there are 35 access points in Belgium. Digiteal is one of them. And so, yes, that's the way to do it. If you're comparing it to an email now, it's not going to be as cheap as an email.
Just for bad news, I look at the people. We have Jesse Powers from Basware, so we will give them the fair chance to respond later on. Thank you for the openness in the discussion here.
Very good. And so what Digiteal enables here is to do this machine-to-machine integration from the accounting software of the supplier to the accounting software of the recipient, doing it through this Peppol standard.
Okay.
The difference that we have compared to Basware is that we are not supporting a lot of channels. We are supporting only Peppol. So that's why, of course, our interest is maybe different than other providers that are supporting more channels. So that's what they're doing with Peppol, and I advise you to do the same in order to automate the reception and the sending of your invoices in an electronic way. Now, the best way to get paid is if your customer doesn't have to do anything. As a supplier, we like to have mandates on customers' account, but the customer don't always like this because they feel that they lose the control on what is going to be paid, when it's going to be paid, and all of that. So what we did in Digiteal is after 3 payments to a specific provider, we will show you this little graph, and we will advise you on a threshold under which the next payments will be done automatically. This increases your domiciliation rate. It convinces your customers, because they have the choice. They can set the limit. If it's above the limit, they can validate it manually only if they want. And they can also set when it's going to be paid, depending on the due date. So they have complete control.
Really nice feature. You have the data, and you provide value both to your customer, who gives consent on a well-informed basis, and the one emitting the invoice is very happy that they get a mandate for future payments.
Yeah,
nice one.
And that way they delegate mandate management.
Yeah.
So they don't even have to do any administration of those mandates. Yeah. We do it for them.
Okay.
Now, Digiteal provides a platform, and this platform is, of course, available through APIs. We talked about Peppol to receive and to send invoices. We talked about how to get paid, online payment, subscriptions. What is also possible is, there in the middle box, is pay incoming invoices directly from your accounting software. We all know about PSD2, payment initiation, all of that. So this is possible now. So you will just select a bunch of invoices that you want to pay. Instead of generating a SEPA credit transfer file, trying to upload it to your bank and then do the payment, which will take you about 5 minutes to do this, you can just click on the button to pay from inside your accounting software, and it will be paid.
There's a few bankers who will not like the pain you just described in that process. Just so you know, they're trying to make it as easy and flawless as it sounds.
Yeah. And the fact that they are even hindering the payment initiation, they'll also recognize who they are. So they are also making this flow unnecessarily complicated. Well, in fact, those people just want to pay their invoices, and they should be allowed to do so quite easily and be helped by their banks to do that. The last part also concerns PSD2, the e-banking part. So in Belgium, we have, I would say, the chance to have quotas, a really Belgian solution to an international problem. The problem is we want to have our bank statements inside our accounting software to be able to reconcile those payments, to know what's going on, to have a situation. Thanks to PSD2, we now have account information services that we can use, and we are harnessing this with the partnership with Xtand to have a connection with the banks so that your accounting software can retrieve in real time the bank statements, and like that you can have a situation directly from within your accounting software without resorting to Coda, Box, or others that will transport these quotas at night after the day has passed, because it's then that they are issued.
And from my understanding, Xtand is a middle layer glue you use to get a PSD2 type of account aggregation integration?
Xtand is the technical integration with the banks. So just like Ibanity, they're a concurrent of Ibanity.
Okay.
And so all of that we can do because of our payment institution license. And if you want to see more about about these APIs, it's all available free online on our docs website. Okay,
great.
Now about the integrators. So all these APIs are used by a few integrators, a bunch of integrations, in fact. Big document service providers. I didn't put UnifiedPost here, Hans, maybe someday. But those are already sending hundreds of millions of invoices. A lot of accounting softwares, you'll recognize Affinity. We also have an integration with Bob, Horus, so all of those are present. And what it does, in fact, the results that we have through those integrations is that we have 25% conversion rate, so people switching from paper invoicing to electronic invoicing, but also switching from payment with their bank, from payment inside Digiteal. 20% of invoices are paid within the first hour because the customers just receive a notification on their smartphone and they pay directly. 50% in the first 24 hours. Not everyone is glued to a smartphone to pay those invoices. They still have a bit of time. And what we saw is that the integrator onboarding is quite fast. We had some onboard and be ready with our APIs in 2 days.
Okay, I can report back. This is your last slide. That on the poll, nobody has been paid within 24 hours. And on this call, nobody within a week, 58% within 1 month, and 33% within 3 months, and then 8% even longer. So there's a huge opportunity for you to tap in that below 1 week payment mask, as many people.
Yeah, but what we want is first hour. That's really the objective.
Wow, very nice. It's a nice call to action.
Yeah, and so that's what we want to provide. If you improve your cash flow, reduce your operational cost, well, we're there to help you, and we would be glad to show you what we can do for you guys.
We'll take further questions at the end for the sake of time, because I interrupted you a few times. So Amélie, you're up next. You're from Yooz, and you're going to tell us a little bit the comparison, also how it works in the French markets and how the same advantages can be brought to the Belgian market, right? So I would say if you can fire up your slides, maybe tell us a little bit about your company, and then move to the content that you prepared.
Exactly. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, we see your screen now. Perfectly well done. So if
That's a good start.
You go to you can go straight to the slides where your slides start. We're at the very beginning of the slideshow, so go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, perfect.
So first, thank you, FinTech Belgium, for the invitation. So I'm Amélie. I'm consultant for Yooz. We're an all-in-one accounts payable solution that is used now by a bit more than 2,000 customers all over the world. So before I start, I would like to highlight the fact that I'm very happy to be speaking to you today, as we are recently significantly accelerating our growth into Belgium, but I'll come back to it later. So with the COVID-19, many of us are currently required to work from home, and worldwide companies and their financial departments offers to adapt, even if times does not stop. Well, financial obligations must be respected, and more than ever, business needs to be going on, especially in France, where many of us are does not have the chance to be working still. So on a bigger scale, this is very crucial to maintain your accounts payable operation running, to avoid cash flows crisis, as Cédric was saying, to support our vendors and clients and the overall economy. So today you'll find out why you should automate, why now, and how you should choose your optimal solution. So let's go here and let's have a look first on those figures. Processing your invoices manually includes many steps, like printing the documents, pass it through a colleague, lose it, create a duplicate, and find it back and reprint it, etc. It's actually so complex that it lasts between 22 and 35 days to process it within the company. So imagine the costs that can be allocated to this. So we searched it for you, and we found out that thanks to Aberdeen and Arthur Little, that one single document can cost between 9 and 20 euros from the moment it arrives to your office till it will be archived. This includes the human costs included to that. And what we want is to avoid also late payments for suppliers that are a consequence of these delays. So
that's very nice you mentioned that, because we had a question or a remark from Alessandra Guillaume before. So I would like to invite everybody to use the chat if you want to make remarks, who indeed said when Cédric showed the cost of the administratieve vereenvoudiging, the simplification agency in Belgium, that it's very likely that was even an underestimation, because if you go and add the human cost of processing these invoices, it's actually amazingly high, shockingly high, I would say. Yeah. So yeah, thanks for that. Yeah. And for everybody, keep using the chat session if you want to make remarks or ask questions here. So back to you, Amélie.
No problem. There's a lot also of hidden costs on computing skills, and well, it's very hard to anticipate all the risks and the costs. So even financial departments are very dependent on regulations, and the pressure is increasing so much that many rules are very hard to follow now. So the result of our studies is also that 70% of the companies using manual processes have declared that they've already faced attempts of fraud. So it can come from collaborators that are overwhelmed at their daily tasks, but it can be also a mistake or any other factor, but the result remains the same. Well, it costs money. So with the COVID-19 specifically, out of the blue, we're suddenly forced to get a better access to our documents, to get better traceability, and change our work habits. So now we can say that only companies that have automated their P2P processes are the only one who were prepared to assure that their accounts payable were running peacefully and efficiently, because we can see that with the amount of business we have now, that many clients regret not to have done it before. It's also very important in this period to pay our supplier on time. So we have to be supportive and try to have a positive impact on our suppliers' cash flow, as Cédric was explaining. And this can make the difference between a company that goes bankrupt or not. And we have many testimonies from our customers saying that they're very happy to have chosen a solution or any other solution of AP automation regarding this particular period. The second reason why you should automate your processes is that companies are already disrupting their business thanks to digital transformation. For example, PwC stated that P2P automation was the priority of 60% of the financial directors when you talk about digital transformation. Transforming your company and adapting to the market will help you to anticipate the risks and the evolutions. So you need to be reactive so that you can give a peace of mind regarding the rise of new technologies, and automating this process will help you to that. And last but not least, another reason is because your competitors didn't wait for you to do it. So companies that already automatize their P2P processes divided their invoices approval length by 5 to 10. And they also had the chance to reduce the costs by about 80% if you consider the manual process and time and the speed of the digital access and the notifications. And on top of that, digitalized companies are on average 26% more profitable than their competitors. So it's quite the moment to go ahead. I think I heard some questions, was it? Or not at all?
There was a question,
okay.
But it was a beginner question, and Cédric already took it. So we won't interrupt you any further.
No problem. I heard some sounds, so
Yes,
I just wanted to be sure that everything's fine. Okay. So to choose the most optimal AP automation solution, the challenge now to find the perfect mix among these reasons. So you need a solution first that offers a high level of automation with no human intervention required, or only for control. And in this time of economic slowdown, it's very crucial to automate and optimize your processes to save as much time as money, so that your employees can focus on other added value tasks. You need to be careful on that, because when you choose an AP automation process, there's a lot of companies communicating on the fact that there is a 95% recognition. This is true, as the OCR will recognize the data, the text of your invoices, but what you need to be careful with is the rate of completed invoices, the ones that will be transformed into text, but the ones also for which the data will be recognized. And to be transparent, an honest rate would be more about 80% of recognition, because you would have the 20% left, which would be about manual invoices and a stain of coffee on the paper invoice, or any other reason that will need you to take a look to adapt it. On those times, you need also to choose a plug-and-play solution, which is very easy to set up and that requires almost no training. So you can be operational from now. From the moment you take your decision, you can be independent in about immediately in 1 month, according to your specific needs. Again, for this reactivity, and so that you can implement it very quickly with no IT costs, you should prefer a SaaS solution versus an on-premise software, in a way that you wouldn't have any upfront investments. So you can be very good, very well agile, and adapt to regarding to the volume and the time of implementation. So I could give a lot more advices, but you need to be careful also of the integrations with the accounting packages, the ERPs, and the CRMs, so that we can communicate directly to your accounting system as a big help to automatize your documents. Okay. as Cédric was saying, it's very good also to get one single software so that you can get all of your process, not to multiply the sources of your incoming documents. Also, a good solution will provide you more traceability, and there is no better advice than listening to the customers themselves. The use cases will help you to choose the right solution and reassure you on your challenges, and to know that if they're happy, there are many chances that you can be happy too.
That's very good and sound advice for everybody who's in this call in their business to listen to your customers, deliver value, keep them happy, make them happy, and that you're probably going to be okay bridging this tough Corona crisis. So thanks for that good general advice too. You were going to tell us how to become operational overnight. If you can wrap that up in a very short time frame, please.
Yes, I will be very quick on that. So I just wanted to be short on the implementation, how to be operational based on our example, because, as you can imagine, Yooz would be a perfect combination of all the criteria we've just stated before. And we're going to explain now how we can make you operational in one night. First of all, as we were saying, we're French. We want to develop in Belgium, and we now want to develop our market and be helping you. And the first way of helping you is proposing you our tool for trial for free during the confinement period. So the advantages of Yooz would be the savings regarding your processing costs, the division of your processing time, and the possibility of having a better traceability and security process. So we can help you on the purchase requisitions, turn them into POs and make automatic match between the POs and the invoices. Then we would get also advantages on the way of gathering information with an omni-channel capture, integrating patented technology with an email generator, and a mobile app so that you can also get the invoices through different ways. Got also patented technology for paper invoices so that you can scan them in mass. And the idea is that you can automate all of the processes of workflows and of approval so that the invoice can get ready to be entered back to your accounting system with no further actions from you. Yeah. So if you want more information, I will be ready to discuss it. Okay. And I hope I did quick enough.
It was quick enough. And just for people that want to take you up on this offer, the domain where they have to go to is YOOZ, and then the extension. I'm waiting for that one. We'll drop it in the chat as well afterwards, so we can, for those of interest, they can test out your solution as well. I think we were at the end of your presentation.
Yes. We were at the end. I made it quick.
Very good. Thank you for that, Amélie.
Sharing.
We're going to go for the Q&A at the very end. We have 2 more speakers, so we're going to try to rush through this. Hans Jacobs from Unified, what was used to be known as UnifiedPost, but I understand it's called Unified now.
No. It's UnifiedPost. It's a mistake from your side. I kept our name.
Very good. So it remains UnifiedPost. That's very good to know. Absolutely. So by now, we're imprinting the name through my mistake. So the marketing department will still be thankful for that one. When I first met you a few years ago, that was in a bank. You were involved in many innovation projects in a large Belgian bank, and you made a move to a FinTech innovator, being UnifiedPost, and especially going into the whole invoicing very early, because that's where we can backtrack the origin of this Belgian company. Can you tell us a little bit more about your own background and how it brought you from banking to the innovation in the document world?
How it brought me from banking to, curiosity, and I think some more adventure. When I was indeed in this big bank, UnifiedPost was one of the clients, and we got in touch with them, and from one thing came the other. So
okay, very nice. So you went to one of your clients. I didn't even know that part of the story. That's good to know, Hans.
It was not my personal client. I was not the accountant.
No, I understand. One of the ones was okay.
And there were some colleagues, former colleagues of mine, that already joined UnifiedPost also. So
so when we talk about innovation in FinTech,
there are quite some ex-bankers in UnifiedPost. So
it's interesting to see how innovation can happen. We always think the banks are going to buy those small startups and scale-ups, but now we have the bankers going to the scale-ups. That's an interesting movement.
Or the scale-ups buying bankers instead of banks.
That's probably, that's another.
Could be a good one.
We're still waiting for the scale-ups to buy a bank, though. So I look forward to that movement. Yeah, we'll
maybe
see if that
one
ever
day.
happens.
You never know. You never know.
Who knows? Who knows? I think with the current valuations in the market, it's not about to happen in the next few months, but you never know. So let's go to the content of your talk, Hans.
I like to start with a quote that one of our contractors got from her accountant, because she was working with an external accountant, and you must know that she already asked multiple times her accountant to start working digitally, and then 3 weeks ago, at the end of March, she got a mail with a quote saying basically, bring all your invoices to our office, but you can enter the office. You have to put them in a box or in the garage.
I like the fact that the box is called the Dropbox. Right?
So but it's literally,
there can't be anything digital that replaces a physical Dropbox. This is not
the Dropbox, and we will not touch them for 3 days. So the whole process of VAT calculation, because that's of course why this person had to deliver their invoices to the accountant, would be delayed for at least 3 days. Now, what actually she wanted, and she already asked her accountant, is to work in a digital way. Now, in one of the platforms or tools to work digitally with your accountant is a tool, a product of UnifiedPost. It's called Build-to-Box. We developed it together with the ITAA, which is the Institute of Tax Advisors and Accountants here in Belgium. And I will briefly discuss a little bit about Build-to-Box. What it is, well, first of all, it's a collaborative platform. It's a platform that's in between the one hand the company, the entrepreneur, and on the other hand his accountant, who has to do the accounting for their client. Now, what is the tool doing? First of all, you have accounts payables, incoming invoices. These can be paper, PDF, or different forms of electronic invoices, as you saw in Cédric's presentation, for example. UnifiedPost it's one of our USPs to handle different formats. You can all stock them in the Build-to-Box accounts payable site. The other hand, you can also send invoices, accounts receivables. There again, 3 ways: or you make the invoice on the platform and you send it, or you make an invoice in Word or Excel of old school things. You have to transform to PDF, upload them in the platform and send them, or you make a connection with your ERP and CRM system, and then you just push the button send, and it will go through Build-to-Box to your customer. All the documents you put on the platform, they are shared real time with your accountant in a digital way. What we are adding now and rolling out is payments. We also UnifiedPost with one of our subsidiaries, UnifiedPost Payments SA, is a licensed payment institute with a license from the Belgian National Bank.
So congratulations on that one. I know that Cédric and Digiteal also went through that process for a different license, but so you got the payment license, which is a pretty advanced one.
It's not only the process, it's afterwards also. You get a lot of audits from time to time. So you need to keep your license, of course. But we have it. And we will put it to use in Build-to-Box, meaning that our customers that have a Build-to-Box will be able to get an IBAN. And we also have access to the whole PSD, to the other banks.
So maybe, because that sounds very straightforward, but for the people who have not followed up on that, you have the possibility to create bank accounts, right? When you say we create an IBAN, you will create for your customer a unique UnifiedPost payable, we call it, right, IBAN number. And from then on, you can...
Our IBAN numbers will start with 504, as you see them on the screen.
Okay.
Meaning also that through PSD2, we can have access to when the Belgian banks are ready, and not all of them are ready yet, unfortunately. But when they're all ready, we will be able to give our clients access to their bank account through Build-to-Box. We can produce then CODA or CAMT statements, and of course also PDF statements, so you can, as a human being, also read what happens on your IBAN.
So from my understanding, they will have an account through you with their own IBAN number, and you will connect to what we call account aggregation and account information services, the existing bank accounts of your customers.
Exactly.
Okay, I understand it.
What also we will provide is that for your incoming payments, meaning on your outgoing invoices, we can put a payment button. I think Cédric explained you all about the benefits of that. Well, same thing here. It goes also here. Outgoing payments, that is our incoming invoices, your accounts payables, you can, with Build-to-Box, first they come in, we will OCR them, we will make them digital. And then actually, when you have approved them, you can pay them with a few clicks, meaning that you select the invoices you want to pay, and with one authorization, and you choose your IBAN from which you want to pay them. With one authorization, you can pay them, which makes it very, very easy to do. What else do we have on Build-to-Box is a document management system for important documents to a company. This can be all kind of contracts, for example. And there are two locations. You have the local files, and that's only for your company, or you can store them in a shared folder with the accountant. So, for example, you have a new loan. Your accountant needs to have the information on that loan in order to book it. Well, you just store them, you just save them in the shared folder, and you don't have to send emails with these documents from left and right anymore. Your accountant has immediately access to it. And then last but not least, on Build-to-Box, there will be also an app store where different kind of third-party providers can also offer services, of course, using the data in the platform, which is all the invoice data that is available in the platform, and which is made digital.
Okay, and for the understanding, and sorry to interrupt you again, Hans, it's that we have a structured format for e-invoices, several one of them. Those ones, you don't need to store them in a box because they go straight into the right flow. But for anything that's unstructured, such as a loan, each bank will generate a different tax certificate every year to say this is how it works. And those you would store and share with your accountant, and it's still a little bit of manual work. Are there any plans for those extra documents to be structured as well? Are the standards coming for that?
For loans, I don't see it.
Or is the volume too low? Cédric is also saying no. So that's that part. No. So it's good news for the accountant that have tuned in. There will still be translation of documents to accounting ledgers for unstructured information like this.
However, for social documents, we are working and discussing with social secretaries to also put them in our system. So
that's a big flow of documents as well.
Yeah,
so
that's also
nice.
big flow.
Okay, nice.
That's future, but it will also become available in the future.
Okay, thank you for those extra explanations. Please go on.
Yeah. So remember my first slide. Well, what have we seen now since lockdown is that we have 4 times more new users in the month of March compared to an average month before. And it actually all happened in the last 2 weeks, and the same trend is in April visible. So we're actually really in a boom there. On the number of invoices, the number of documents uploaded in our system. Well, this was a figure taken beginning of the week, the 20th of April. We were already at 3 times more invoices than an average month. And I suppose we will also, by the end of April, be with 4 times or 5 times more documents on the platform.
It's
also
very uplifting, I would say, Hans, because we have all this gloom and doom, all this news about startups losing their users, their traction, and everything. And I see that in this world of the digital accounting and AccountingTech, the Corona crisis is pushing you and accelerating the digital transformation.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And it's really linked to the lockdown. It's not that you said we saw it build up. No, it's a real spike that goes up as of March.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Maybe
there are, for example, 70 new accounting firms that started with Build-A-Box the last two weeks of March, and I think in April already 2024 or something that already started with it. Nice. Well, you've seen the mail. You've seen the quote I showed you. People don't want any, or the accountants, they don't want to have the paper invoices anymore. So they have to look for alternatives. I suppose, and I don't know the figures, but I suppose our competitors, they will see the same evolution. It's not. I don't think it's only Build-A-Box.
Maybe you're asking the questions now. Maybe go to Amélie first, and then to Cédric. Can you say something about the take-up you have, just very short, like the type of new users and new partners that joined since the lockdown? Amélie?
There are two cases. There are the real increasing numbers of clients, of course, and there's also the slowdown of some others who, for which the decisions are harder to make because the people are not gathered in the same room. So we've got the two ups and downs.
Okay, so it's you have some winners and some that lose because their activity has really gone down as well.
Yes, but we're overwhelmed by the number of new clients we have.
Okay, that's good. So the acquisition is working well. Okay, that's at least we can use some of these positive messages. Cédric, do you have more good news for us?
Yeah. To me, the integrators have a lot more time now, so it's a great time to do those integrations. So a lot of new integrators coming in.
Okay, that's good for you. So Hans, back to UnifiedPost, Build-A-Box, and the other products that you offer.
Okay, so the impact of the lockdown. Now, a little bit what we think, that once these people go digital, they don't go back to paper. First of all, because the digital invoice do not infect you with COVID-19.
It's the first time I heard that line, and it's a bit of Corona washing, but in this case, the fact that you have real actual mails from accountants saying we don't touch your paper for 72 hours, we're willing to buy it.
So, because of course, if you go digital, there are many benefits, and you've seen them also in the presentations of the first two presentations: cost savings, time savings, increasing efficiency, those kind of stuff. It's all about convenience. And I think I heard a very nice quote in a webinar yesterday, which is convenience eats trust for breakfast. Meaning that I think if you have a platform, if you have a solution that brings a lot of convenience, it will really people will really start using it. Definitely once they are very acquainted with it and they feel the convenience actually out of it. Now, if you look a little bit more to the future, and what we think is that platforms like Build-A-Box, but also our competitor platforms, they will help the transformation from PDF to electronic invoice. If you look today at the Belgian market, there's only 12 to 15% of the invoices are actually e-invoices, XML. More than 50% is still PDF. And PDF is not an electronic invoice, but every invoice that is created or sent by Build-A-Box is always an electronic invoice. So the more people using it, the more electronic invoices will become.
And maybe a question, I'm sure you're going to be able to answer it. For years, there was a discussion with the tax authorities. What is the official invoice? Is it the PDF? Is it the XML equivalent? Which one is leading? In Belgium, this is solved now, this issue of having an original invoice. And what is the outcome of that?
The e-invoice is an original invoice.
But if there's several versions of it, if you generate both an XML one and a PDF, is there a leading version of it, or if there ever is discrepancies? Cédric is also nodding no. So there's no difference.
There is no precedence. They're both valid, and they should contain the same data.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's no case law, but as long as you align those different versions, you're safe. Okay, that's good to know. Very reassuring. Thanks for that.
What also can we see, or do we think that there will be more in the future, like invoice financing? We will also make it available on our platform. The smart use of the invoice data. If you have,
so you're going very quick over that one. And it's a whole niche in fintech, companies offering invoice financing as a product and service. And so that means that people sending their invoices through your platform, if it remains unpaid, just like Digiteal just told that you can push people to accept a mandate, you're going to push the company sending the invoice to say, hey, we can already give you the cash at a certain discount, and we'll arrange with the one who owes you the money that they pay us. Is that a summary of what that would be, the product?
Yeah.
Wow.
Right, some kind of factoring, but
absolutely,
very convenient, because it's convenience here. If you start with a traditional factoring contract, you have to give all your invoices. It's a whole procedure. Well, here you just will choose the invoice that you want to be pre-financed, and it's like an offer that we will give you, and then if you accept it, you'll have the money a couple hours later on your UnifiedPost payment IBAN.
Wow. Okay, now talk about convenience and integration. That sounds like a very, very nice way forward. Okay.
Yeah. I think the data, the smart use of the data, and there I think artificial intelligence will also come into the game, and will help a lot to increase convenience.
Can you give an example, more concrete? Because AI is a very wide thing. For this use case of invoices classification, where do you see the first use cases using AI technology?
First use case, for example, if you have the incoming invoices, you have the outgoing invoices, meaning you have your income and you have your costs in the future, because you know the due dates of the invoices. Well, if you run a little bit, and this is not so complicated, if you run some algorithms on it,
it's not rocket science. I can confirm that.
Yeah, it's not rocket science. It's very easy actually. But okay, you can take into account some other additional information, like what is the let's say the payment.
Behavior
payment condition of behavior of your customer. What is your own payment behavior? Because some companies tend to pay a little bit later also. If you take all that into account, I see in the future Build-to-Box saying to its customer, you will have a cash flow problem in 3 weeks or 6 or 7 weeks. Please check already out some offers for financing.
Okay.
That kind of algorithms that in my eyes will be very useful, which also gives again that convenience.
They can see the tension with the classic banking world getting even bigger again through this, because you go more and more into their space, and they're moving down into the document space and accounting solutions. So it's a really interesting time to follow this in the
banks will also come with those kind of solutions, of course. I mean, it's not that we'll be the only ones, but at least we want to be in the leading field there. Then another thing that we see is that government's push for the digital agenda is more and more becoming important. For example, one of the countries where we're also present, Estonia, last year by the summer, the Estonian government decided that all companies that want to deliver service or products to the government only could send e-invoices to them. There were 4 providers, or 4 or 5 providers that where the companies could go to. We were one of them, and in a couple, actually in 2 months, we had 1/4 of the Estonian SMEs on our platform. It's a platform called ArVid.ee. Those kind of movements we will see more and more in Europe. And another one, very interesting one, and we are actually investigating it more with a white paper that will come out in a couple of weeks, is on the VAT gap. Governments, they see that the VAT that they think they will collect and what they really collect, there's a gap. For example, in Belgium, this is around 12% of what, and it's about 3 billion. That's what actually the government is missing, or things they're missing. In Italy, there's a beautiful example of that. Last year, they introduced a system that if an Italian company wants to invoice another Italian company, they have to send the invoice in an electronic way to the government, and the government will then forward it to the customer. because they want to see what the VAT on it will be. And they already reduced their gap significantly. I think governments, after Corona also, but they always are in need for money, for extra financing. I think it will be it will become on the agenda more and more in other different in other European countries, and this of course also will push the electronic invoicing in our economy and in our systems.
I see that. I can see that happening, because today they only have the annual VAT listings, which are both Belgian and European. And you're telling us that in Italy they're doing this real-time base. You have to include like a carbon copy, a digital one of your invoice to the government, or even more. You say the government forwards it, so you cannot send it directly. You have to send it to the government mailbox and say, please forward to that counterpart.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and at the end of the month, the government knows exactly if they have to pay you VAT or if they have to receive VAT from you, and they send you your bill.
Okay. Interesting. And does the government get a payment mandate? I'm just kidding here. Can they get it straight from your account, and you get a little bit of leeway there? We'll see about that. Thanks, Hans. Great explanation. Again, for the sake of time, we're gonna move to our last speaker. So if you can, I would say maybe get your slides off the stage, and we have Edouard Beauvois, who's going to take the stage for AiVidens and tell us a little bit about you, your company, and as a last speaker to wrap up this subject with the services you're offering.
Yeah, and Toon, if you hear me, actually my screen just froze, so I will just log off and log on again.
Okay, that's fine. Go ahead. I will try to use that time in a useful manner by asking people to join the chat and to start launching questions or remarks they had during the first part of this webinar. We're going to come to the public chat session afterwards. If there's somebody who wants to come on stage and to share a story they have regarding their own accounting or the accounting platforms they're using, the way they work with their accountants or banks when it comes to payment, please do. We really like those interactive, I would say, additions to our webinars. And as you can see, we're all waiting for Edouard to join us back to do this part. I will use this time to quickly go over the polls that we launched prior to this session. So how many invoices do you send was one of the questions. We had 42% of the respondents saying less than 100, 32% between 100 and 1,000, and 25% between 1,000 and 50,000. So we're really talking, I think, typical SMB volumes of the people joining on this webinar. And right now, Edouard, we can see you. I hope you can hear me.
Good.
So I would say stage is yours. Happy to see you again.
Very good. Thank you. So I will share my screen.
Yes, that would be great.
Should work now. Right. Very good. Yeah, can you see my screen? Okay, good. Right. So indeed, so my name is Edouard Beauvois. I'm one of the founders and CEO of AiVidens. And actually, we are a young and small startup, but we have created a software that allows company to predict whether the customers will pay and when. And we also do work on financial risk management. So I'm here today actually to tell you more about how predictive payment and financial risk management can help you. So, of course, and I mean, many of us talked about it. I mean, the current situation leads, I mean, from a CFO point of view to new challenges. Just to name some of them, cash flow volatility is increasing. The exposure to credit risk is increasing as well. There is more operational disruption. Many of the businesses have stopped, and teleworking make it so that from a collection point of view, it makes it actually hard to get in touch with your customers, specifically with the financial departments, to collect the money back. So among the many topics that the CFO has on its table, I just would like to focus on two. One is really the fact that CFOs are setting up a cash culture or trying to set up a cash culture, really meaning that everyone needs to be cash sensitive, everyone within the company. And as a consequence to that, from a pure financial point of view, collection strategies are being redefined in the company. So speaking about collection strategy, and just to give you some numbers, I mean, bad debt today, right, even without the crisis, at a European level, they represent 2.3% from a cost perspective of the annual turnover of companies. In Belgium, we speak about on average between 3 and 3.5%, which is a significant amount. And as well, bad debts, they explain 25% of SME bankruptcies in Europe. So again, it's really a lot. Of course, we know that there are precautions. We spoke earlier in the presentation about some of them, like the credit rating agencies, credit insurances, factoring tools, etc. But the current context changed the game. For example, policies for credit insurances are getting higher, so it's more expensive. Credit limits are getting lower. There are questions about the rating provided by credit rating agencies, because the data for the credit rating as such are 12 to 18 months old, right? So that's really the context we are in. Completing this context, what we have seen as well in general, and it's even more important today, we have identified 4 inefficiencies that CFOs will work on, or should work on. Really, the first one is the cash accuracy. Do I, in my company, have the right data to really make sure that I know what exactly my cash position or my liquidity forecast is? I'm not speaking about bank statements and pure cash at the bank. I'm really speaking about what is the cash that will be coming in the few days, the next days, all right? And is that cash coming in a few days will be enough to pay what needs to be paid in the coming days or weeks? The second issue is the lack of anticipation. Do I know exactly when my customers will pay, and do I know exactly which of my customers are drifting or slipping away or towards from good customers to bad customers? Do we know that? Are we in a position to identify that? From a pure collection perspective this time, we expect, and I mean, it's no secret, I mean, we expect a waterfall when it comes to bankruptcies and defaults of payments. So that means that companies will have many more items to process when it comes to collection, but the amount of resources that they have remains the same. So as a company, how do I make sure that I set my priorities right, and I know exactly which item to collect? And the last one are the measures that I put in place to collect the money back, the right one. For example, if I know that a customer has a higher reaction rate when you send him or her an SMS than a call, etc., do I really apply that? That's really the context. And I would like to strengthen as well the fact that we all believe that we know customers, and actually don't think you know your customers, at least from a financial point of view. Don't think it. And just to illustrate that, actually, when we work with companies, of course, we do a lot of data analysis. We analyze payment patterns and so on. So hence, we should speak after this meeting.
I love it when our webinars become a business platforms. So we've seen that many times before. So please continue. You see much opportunities with UnifiedPost. That's nice to see.
Look, so I mean, what you see in front of you is really a true case. And so we analyzed the data for the last 3-5 years, or in that case, even more. And what I've just done is just to extract one customer of one of our customers. And we just analyzed one attribute. We do analyze many of them, but here is just one, which is the average number of days that this customer will pay our customer. From the graph, it's obvious there is an issue with the customer.
That's even pre-COVID issue, because it's starting in 2015 that they become sloppy in paying in time. Yeah.
Exactly. And when we spoke to our customers, we told them, you have an issue with this customer, pay attention, something is going to happen, you need to take an action. Actually, we were told, no, you are not right. Okay, we were quite surprised. And we asked the question why, and the answer was simple. We know this customer for 10 years. It's our largest customer for the last 3 years. It's true we had payment issues over the last weeks, months, but still we trust them. And guess what? Actually, we were right. 2 or 3 months after this analysis, that customer went bankruptcy. And so don't believe that you know your customers, at least from a financial point of view. You don't know what the impact of the crisis, or even in general, the financial impact will be on your customers. So that's why we always say, and well, here's some print screens about our software, but it's really the purpose to say, know your numbers, and know your numbers every day. Right? Start with the basic numbers, like what's the amount of outstanding, what's the amount of overdue, a number of invoices, what's the average number of days my customers are paying, etc. Really know it. That's really the starting point. Next to that, down left in red, know the payment behavior of your customers and segment your customers according to their payment behaviors, and know which are the good payers and know which are the bad payers. Why? Because that will allow you to renegotiate payment terms, for example, or if you need to collect the money back, you will focus on the good payers, or if you need to review payment conditions, you will
how
use
do you
that.
solve the difficulty of that reality? So you might have had good customers paying rent or other services because they were in the HoReCa event industry and so on. And we know that these two are extremely heavily impacted by this crisis. Does your tool also anticipate in which you are anticipating payment issues? How do you make those choices?
There are two ways of doing it. The first way, what we're going to ask very often, is simply to analyze the debt portfolio of companies, and from the debt portfolio, identify good and bad customers, and then from the bad customers, see whether there are lately changes in the payment patterns. That would be the easiest way. Now, what we do as well, we do integrate geographical parameters in the risk model, as well as industry characteristics, so that we have an idea of what the waterfall will be. And we combine these two dimensions, industry and geography, and we reintegrate them into our model so that we can start further anticipating further issues.
Thanks for that.
Okay? So that's very brief. That's what we do. So identify as well the risky customers, and by really risky customers, I mean customers with which you will or you may expect this period either a dispute or a payment default. Know them, and know them by heart. List them all. As well, from a pure cash perspective, and again, what you see on the top by due date is the standard aging balance, right? Using the due date in the invoice, using the standard payment terms. And what we do as well, like I said, we can recalculate what the predictive payment date will be. So we can say when a customer will pay, using different patterns as well, and using artificial intelligence in that case. And we identify a gap between the due date and the predictive payment date. And of course, the truth is between the two. I mean, none of the two is the truth, right? The truth is between the two, but at least once you identify this gap, you are in a position to discuss with the cash manager, with the treasurer, to say, do I need to fill in the gap? And how shall I fill in the gap? Shall I use a financing with the bank, or shall I start increasing the collection process? And then that's when the whole logic and the whole principle starts. So really, as a conclusion, in short, if you want to set up a cash culture, and if you want to redefine collection strategy, we see 4 key actions. 1, understand your customers and really understand where the risks are when it comes to your customers, even more today than before. Understand today whether your customers will pay and when, and try to assess the gap that you will need from a pure cash point of view, right? Just to avoid being in short, and anticipate that. That's key, instead of being too short at the last minute. If you can, if your organization allows it, start simulating different collection strategies. I mean, it's what we do as a software. So those are options that we can do. It's really to play with different parameters and see what the evolution of the collection strategy and the cash will be in the future. And then only prioritize the efforts and avoid spending time on a customer you know they will pay after the first dunning letter. Don't spend time on them. Really spend time where you will get the cash a harder way or an easier way, depending on your cash position at that time. So that's just what I wanted to say. Don't hesitate to take another look of your debt portfolio, see differently, and consider your customers very differently today than even before. So many thanks for your attention.
Thank you for that, Edouard. I think we're going to reach the point where we're going to try to handle the questions. And I want to thank the audience. You've been particularly active with excellent questions. I'm maybe going to start with one from Philippe Setin, who was asking and was already answered about integrations with Odoo as a well-known Belgian ERP and much more platform, open source. But I know, Cédric, they were also mentioned on one of your slides. So can you maybe tell us a little bit if you have knowledge of successful integrations with Odoo already?
Odoo has a marketplace with where you can add a lot of modules. We already have a module for Digiteal inside the Odoo marketplace. So if you're an Odoo customer, you can just download it from here and have it directly integrated. Another specific aspect about those is that they're usually free. So go on. Odoo is open source, at least for there is a version that is open source, so you can do it. So yeah, we have those modules available.
Okay, so you're there, and I saw Daniel Verbrugge followed up if you would prefer your solution and Yooz and AiVidens to be integrated, or if you want to take the customers straight. You've answered that. You're in the marketplace. Maybe the other speakers, starting with you, Amélie. What is your positioning on this? And your microphone is muted, so you have to unmute the microphone. Thanks.
Yeah, I was unmuting it. No, we consider ourselves as totally a complement of the ERP. We have no intention of replacing it, and that's why we propose different modules that you can choose according to the ERP you have, so that you don't pay twice for something you already have in any other software. Okay, great. Edouard, you're up next. Are you integrating to some way with your platform?
Yeah, actually, we have a global partnership with SAP. So we are considered as an add-on to their solution. That's one. I mean, that's the official partnership that we have. But we do integrate. I mean, we have customers using Sage, Axapta already. Yeah.
Okay, so that's other competitors. For those who don't know, it's of Odoo, the incumbents, the closed source versions that have been used for decades in many cases. Maybe back to you, Hans. You answered some of those questions. You're going to go to your product team to see which ones you already offer as an integration or marketplace partner.
There are quite some in the pipeline, I know. So but I don't know all the names. So.
Okay, that's great, but it's fine. We can follow up after this session as well. You answered the question from Hans van Deun, also Hans, so it's between the Hans, but he was asking, do I have to put all my invoices into UnifiedPost? And you answered, no, you can just do cherry picking and use the ones that you want to expose to getting your invoice paid quicker. We often hear this question because people are afraid if they tell their counterpart, hey, I want to be paid faster, that they're in trouble. What do you answer to those people that are hesitant to use those new payment forms? Because the counterpart needs to know that you pay another account at the due date. And when they ask why, they say, well, we will get your money earlier and we pay the premium. It doesn't cost you anything. Just pay to this account. Did you ever get this type of reflexes?
Of course, I got many of those in my past. It is, of course, it could be that there be a link between a company that's in trouble and a company that is trying to get their invoices paid faster through factoring, for example. Now the best argument there is companies that grow very fast. They also need a cash cycle that speeds up, and they therefore not are in trouble, but they need their cash cycle to speed up, and they can use factoring or invoice financing solutions to finance their cycle, because sometimes banks don't follow. The banks don't follow on, and so it's the best way to finance yourself. It's also maybe a smart way to finance if you have, for example, with single invoice financing, if you have just one small need or just a particular need at the end of the month to pay some salary, something like that, and then you know there's a lot of money coming in. Well, instead of going through a whole process with a bank and have to give a lot of stuff in guarantee or pledged, well, you just choose some invoices and you finance them and you're gone. So
great.
the easiness and the convenience of the solution can be very handful there.
Okay, super. We're going to take another question from Erik Meilemans, who's asking, like, who's the real owner of an invoice? What are companies like UnifiedPost, Digiteal, and Yooz on this stage doing to make sure that owner, often an SMB, keeps having a helicopter view of all the invoices and not just the ones generated through your platform? Do you have an answer for this?
Well, in our case, the invoice finance is not ready yet. It's a solution for the future.
This is not about the financing. This is about the helicopter view on all the outbound invoices for an SME. Some of them you upload, some of them you create. How do you keep the overview?
Owner of the invoice is always the issuer of the invoice. Okay. But if you assign your invoice to, for example, a factoring company or a bank, then the new owner of the invoice is, of course, the one that has been assigned the invoice.
Okay.
And
thanks
maybe
for that.
Finances the invoice.
Okay. Cédric, you want to add up on that, or Amélie, is your platforms? How do you deal with this, keeping overview for your customers?
Go ahead, Cédric.
Okay. So we for small companies, we have a solution where they can receive their invoices and manage them from there. But I think that the best solution is still going to an AccountingTech package, a CRM, an ERP. That's where they will really find this functionality and be able to gather them all. A solution like the one of Yooz is exactly what they need in order to do that. So I think that a thing that completes it and assembles all of those incoming invoices into one, that's what they really need in order to do that. And there are a few solutions.
So,
one uses a good
very nice. Cédric is passing the the sales pitch to Amélie, so you don't have to do that. Yeah. Can you pass it on to Edouard? So what can you add?
No, hardly. Our system is a way to manage and gather information and gather the invoices. If I can add one thing, is that you would get the overview of your invoices, but you would remain the owner of it. You wouldn't be a slave of the tool in a way that if you decide one day that you want to change or you want to stop that end, when you take back your old package of invoices and you're still the owner of your documents.
Okay, and maybe question to Edouard then. You need your basic raw material is the invoice data of the companies that you go and advise. How tough is it when you see multiple sources where they're being created or different divisions or product lines? What can you tell about that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, well, first of all, when it comes to the partnership that we have, I need to start from the beginning. So to do the analysis that we do, actually, we work with data in concentric circles, right? Okay. So really to start with, we use invoices and payments, and then we can extend the data going up to, I don't know, dunning, promises to pay, additional financial information related to the process. And then we can start using operational data, even external data coming from rating agencies and so on. Usually when it comes to really starting a project, we started small. That means that we started with really the heart and the most concentric circle, meaning invoices and payments. That's, I mean, with the partnerships that we have, I mentioned SAP, I forgot to mention Netica as well in the real estate. It's pretty standard. That means there is one transaction, you run an SAP, and you get the invoices and the payments directly into our software. When it comes to the other software for which we don't have a partnership, we know the transactions, or there is a bit of complexity to extract the data, but since we work with, I would say, basic data, it's not that complex. So we speak about just a few days to get the data. Now, the toughest thing is really to clean the data. because there is a lot of work. Well, when I say a lot, I mean it's a few days as well to really know what exactly is meant by an invoice in companies. Because when we speak about invoice, we always speak about the best case, but you have cancellation, you have errors, you have opérations diverses, you have many things that can happen on a customer account that you need to clean and work with.
Okay. So we have a follow-up question. I think there's a bit of discussion about ownership of invoices here, but there is a question that comes close to what you were explaining for those who want to keep a view on outgoing and incoming invoices. And how do you keep a clear view on that related to your cash flow? The first one, Hans, you want to take that one, or another speaker?
Yes, I mean, but first of all, should be the owner. Yeah, well, the owner of what? An invoice.
I think it's about the process more. That's how I interpret this.
Because you have the legal, the invoice represents a debt, and you have who's the owner of the debt? Well, the one who needs to receive the money. But if you talk about the data on an invoice, well, of course, it's and the issuer and the receiver. They are, of course, the owner of their data, and on the platform, also like a platform like Build-to-Box. We are not the owner; it's the one who is on the platform and puts the data on the platform. He is the owner, and he can decide whatever he does with that data. And if you, because then it goes on. What about outgoing?
I think it's a good. If nobody else wants to take that one, we'll go on with the data angle. But Cédric, I see you want to add something. Go ahead.
Yeah, a company tries to standardize in the way they're going to manage their incoming invoices and manage their outgoing invoices. They're going to try to find one solution to do this and that. It might be the same that would do both, like in an ERP. Sometimes it will be different software that do that. When large companies in corporates, often they went through acquisition cycles and they end up with different products. And there it becomes a nightmare to try to centralize it, because the bigger they are, the more complicated it gets. And for example, in Proximus, we know that they have 3 billing systems, and they're still trying to unify those into a single thing. So it really depends on how it was set up, but usually they try to centralize.
Okay, thanks for that answer. If nobody else wants to take this one, I'll add another one on this very interesting topic of the data in the invoice, which are co-owned by the ones that send it and the ones that receive it. They both need to process and what happens with it. But you as intermediate platforms are the refineries that can extract a lot of value and insights from that, both who's creating the invoice, who are the counterparties, the amounts, the payment terms in which they are being fulfilled. How do you deal with I'm not going to say the privacy aspect of it, but about the industrial secret aspect of that? Because you become very crucial, and knowing market players having these data. How do you have customers asking questions about this? Yeah, but now you know all my customers and all my providers and who's paying and how I'm paying them, and what are you going to do to compare the payment data between like one customer being paid faster than another? Is this something a concern? Maybe start with you, Edouard, because you're like a little bit of an outsider. You see this happening in companies. But you make the full analysis, and then to the more platform owners in this talk.
Yeah, well, the difference between B2B and B2C, right? Because in B2C,
let's stick to B2B here, because for B2C we understand the privacy in GDPR.
Yeah. So when it comes to B2B, actually, we are covered contractually, let's be clear, but everything which is related to raw data remains confidential, and we are not allowed to share it. That's it. Now, when it comes to the outcome of the calculations that we do, so payment profiles, risks, and so on, qualification or segmentation of customers, we actually own the data, and we officially ask for the right to own the data. Why do we do it? Because that allows us as well to create benchmarks. And you mentioned something, right? We are in a position to say this customer's pays better. Customer of AiVidens than with the rest of the industry, right? So when we create benchmark, we cannot say that this customer is customer for another company, but we can create a benchmark on an average for industry or for different clusters. That we do and that we are allowed to do. But for that, we need to own the outcome of the calculations. I can't.
We can't hear you.
Yeah, we can't hear you. You are on mute.
All taking the role of master of ceremony here. So Amélie, you're next. You made a good comment on me being muted. The data angle, how do you manage that part?
Well, we obviously are RGPD or RDPD.
In English, it's GDPR, but we know what you're referring
the way
to.
of GDPR, thanks. Yes. Compliant. We are aware of the risks of digitalizing also some documents because some modifications can be made on the documents, and that's why we propose an option to make a legal archive, so that there would be a detection of fraud, so that there would be an analysis on Photoshop, an analysis on the average amounts from suppliers, and you can be sure that a document has not been modified before it turns into accounting systems. Okay, so that's a double security that you can input in your company.
Great. And maybe Hans, you want to add further on that, or Cédric? I know I'm messing up the screen here, but I'm trying to put the closing marks. So don't worry. There's lots of mirroring going on there.
It's an art piece.
Yeah. So we make it very clear in our terms and conditions that we are not going to sell the data. We're not monetizing this data. So that's the way. And so if they have questions, well, we can refer to those terms and conditions. It's also very important to us because the customers that are paying us are the issuers of the invoice. And so they wouldn't want us to say, well, look at this invoice, dear customer. We have a counterparty or another concurrent that has a better invoice for your, I don't know, energy invoice. They wouldn't like that at all. So we're not doing that.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So you stick to your existing business model. Very good one. As you can see, I'm quickly thanking our sponsors for allowing us to offer these free webinars and already making the call to action for the next one. And I know that it's also going to pop up on your screen at the very end of this of this presentation. So that's a little bit on the thank you for the sponsorships. As you see, we've reached the 1 hour and a half, and we really try to make these webinars within that time frame. So I really want to wish everybody a great weekend. Thank you for the very, very useful interactions. And I would like, we're going to give it 1 extra minute where each of you can give the summary or the thing that you think is the most important when it comes either to your product or to invoicing and cash recovery. So we're going to start with you, Hans. Can you give us, or if you're not ready, the first one who's ready, just take the floor. This is fully improvised.
I mean, I'm ready. Start digitalizing your invoicing process. It will only help you. It will give you a lot of convenience, and you will reap the benefits very quickly of it.
I love the convenience eat trust. That's a really, really good takeaway from the quote you gave.
Indeed.
Very nice. For breakfast on top of that. Very good. Yeah. So, Cédric, maybe move to you for the next summarizing quotes.
Yeah, I would just like to say that in order to retrieve your cash, get it from your customers, provide them a great service so that they will be happy to pay you, and provide them also great convenience for the payment part. It's also very important for you to get paid faster.
Okay, very good. So, Amélie, you want to give us a summary for Yooz?
Yeah, summary is that if you want to try it, enjoy the moment, because we do it for free at the moment, and we'll be glad to give you more information on so that we can adapt to your project and answer more accurately to what you want to automatize.
That's a very marketing call to action. Nice for that one. And I would go further to you, Edouard, if you can wrap it up as a final speaker.
Yeah, thank you. No, just very simply, consider your customers differently, especially from a financial point of view. That's just it. And we are there to help you, so don't hesitate to get to us.
Okay, so I look forward to seeing everybody on May the 5th for the next one on the Digital Finance Outreach. You can find all the information if you follow the link that's on your screen now. And with that, I wish everybody a great weekend, and looking forward to seeing you in the next webinar. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Bye. Thank you all.
Bye. Thank you, everybody.